for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call?
Let's find my stuff. Trustee Blower?
Yes.
Trustee McGurran?
Yes.
Trustee Young?
Yes, ma'am.
Administrator updates. Lori Kyle?
Good evening. First on the agenda is Jason with Bill Spade Electric to discuss the furnace, please.
So we found a heat exchanger on the tube back here that does this area, secondary, that is leaking. I believe the units is, let's see here. Tell you precisely.
Like 19 years old.
Yep, it's an '06. So it's up there in age. I know we provided a quote to do just one, but our recommendation would be to do both because they're both the same age. We actually probably have to pull the one that you were wanting to keep out and put the new one in. So either way, we'll probably have to pull both. So that is pretty much what I'm here. Just if you have any questions or.
Since you mentioned this heat exchanger, because I saw the rest, that's why I asked, I said, did they say it was heat exchanger? Okay, I understand. 8 volts to pull out a heat exchanger and swap in a new one for $800 for cost, plus your labor.
For $800?
You know, for a heat
I
exchanger,
mean,
there's.
heat exchangers aren't cheap. I mean, for the price of the heat exchanger, it's brand new furnace. I mean, you're putting a heat exchanger in a unit that's already 19 years old. Because the heat exchanger is no longer in warranty either.
Okay. Well, I know that's not, but
Yeah,
how much would a new one cost?
Yeah, I mean, for a heat exchanger, you're probably, I mean, just for the heat exchanger, you're probably 13, maybe 15, $1,600. And that's, I mean, by the time we spend 3 or 4 hours putting in a new heat exchanger, and who knows, I mean, the other one probably isn't far behind.
I would say, I would just go put it on both of them, you know, like that. If we could shave, what I'm looking at is we could shave it half the cost. 'Cause we're tight.
Oh.
If we could shave half the cost off,
Right.
I'd be okay for it.
I mean, I can get you a price for it for certain. I mean, if y'all need a quote for a heat exchanger, but I mean, just if you're planning to stay, I mean.
Because they're only 16 gauge, maybe 14 at the heaviest and aluminized. It can't last forever because you got to heat and extraction, you know.
Right.
That breaks them up, I understand.
Right. And then not only that, Carrier's really prone. They have, at that time, had very bad heat exchangers.
Yeah, because everything else seems to work fine.
I mean, that's up to you all. If you want me to provide you a quote for 2 heat exchangers, I mean, I just know that they aren't cheap. I mean, for a secondary, for 3 or 4 primaries and a secondary, because if you're going to do a secondary, you might as well do the primaries. Because there's what's called primaries and secondaries. And then you also have the face plate in the front, because you can't get those apart without damaging them. So we'll have to replace that. You'll also replace what's called the collector transfer plate in the back that connects the two together. So, I mean, just for the heat exchangers, I mean, I would say $1,500, $2,000 a piece. So, I mean, right there, you're at 4. Then you figure you're a day putting them in. I mean, that's probably 5,000. Two more thousand, you get 2 new brand new furnaces.
Well, okay, let's put it this way. If you can do them both for 4,000 or just right around that price, I'm okay with doing it right now. But get that price down.
Get what price down for the
So
furnaces?
get it down to, if you can get it down to 4,000 by replacing the heat exchangers only, because all the other items are functioning fine.
Right. I mean, I can see what I can do. I gotta get.
You'll be able to squeeze the reg a little bit, you know.
Yeah, I mean, the
It's
first.
a write-off. It's a community project. It's a write-off, you know, for you guys.
I mean,
Donate a little bit.
that's up, like I said, I can provide you a quote.
Okay.
But my recommendation, since they're already 20 years old.
I know, but the fan's working fine. There's no wobbling back there. You know, inducer fan's fine. The burners were fine. Everything looks good except when I saw the rest of that, it's got to be heat exchangers then.
Right. That's the secondaries. Like I said, if we're gonna replace secondaries.
So Bill, to squeeze the reg a little bit, get it around $4,000 and come here and get it done.
I will provide a quote, because I honestly, I'm not 100% sure on how much the heat
I know,
exchangers
I
are.
know. I'm just making a request.
So the original cause from an email from the township administrator was moisture on the floor.
Mhm.
How does that occur with the heat exchanger?
So just
I
at the
don't know
time-
nothing about it.
So being 20 years old, they seal the heat exchangers up. It's
Okay.
over time, they see so much heat expanding and contraction that the seals and stuff will just wear out.
Okay.
And especially in a space like this, I mean, who knows how long that it actually takes to heat the space? I know we've done some balancing and stuff, so we've helped try to eliminate some of the extended run times,
Yeah.
especially in air conditioning. But typically, you get an average lifespan for a heat exchanger is about 20 to 25 years. And that dramatically changes depending on environments and,
When you have a high efficiency unit, you're condensing.
Correct. I've got one in my house. That's why I'm asking. How's the moisture getting outside the machine? Something's cracked inside there
there's a
and
leak.
condensation's able to leak out.
Yep.
Okay.
It goes back to the inducer fan in and on out from that point, because the inducer fan, if it gets blocked, can actually fill with water, which will
Okay.
kill out the system, lock it out for you.
I guess my main concern here is too, if we're within $2,000 of replacing everything, which is the motherboards, the fans, the squirrel cage, the bearings, and all their labor. That's $2,000 that if the fan goes out next year or this summer during air conditioning season and they got to go back in, we're probably not saved the damn dime.
Well, pay the 7,000 then. I'm not gonna argue, you know.
And then so the warranty, I know Lori asked me about the warranties. So on the commercial equipment, for new equipment, you get a 1-year parts warranty. And that's any manufacturer. And the reason why in a commercial space, there's variations of how long it's run, environments and stuff like that. So they can only guarantee parts for a year on those. But you do have a 10-year heat exchanger warranty
Okay.
on the new equipment.
Are we being,
And as us, Bill Spade, we provide a 1-year labor warranty.
okay, are we being quoted any other manufacturer units besides Carrier?
We are quoted train.
Okay. Will you quote anything else or is that who you?
That's it, they carry it.
That's who we carry. Yeah, and they're all typically, any manufacturer for any kind of equipment as far as commercially is normally a 1-year parts warranty. The only time it does change is like outdoor units, compressors. Like if you do like an outdoor unit, then 5-year compressor, or in this case, a 10-year heat exchanger. So, and then on train, they do use a stainless steel heat exchanger. So it's a little bit more reliable compared to some of the old cast and stuff.
If it's 309, it'd be true, or 310. But they use a lower grade stainless, and everybody thinks stainless is great, but it's not, because it doesn't expand and contract as good as regular
Right.
black iron.
Right.
It just doesn't rust, yeah.
So.
And the unit's safe to run until it's repaired?
So we actually have, so you have 2 units back there that are what's called twinned together. So by having them twinned, they're 100,000 BTUs apiece. By having them twinned, then it's 2,000 BTUs that you're putting in this space. So that's why we're actually putting 2 furnaces. So right now you are running with just 100,000 BTUs. And right now, since it isn't all that cold out, you're able to maintain a somewhat of a comfortable temperature.
How many square feet is this area that you're
That
proposing?
I'm not
You
100%. But those units also do,
3,500, I'd say.
those units also do Lori's office, I believe Julie's office, the fire chief's a little bit.
He's usually running really hot, like mine right now is like 66. It's chilly
6
in
times
there.
8 is 40.
And it possibly could be because right now,
1,200
we're such in a temperature where nothing's persistently running. Once everything starts to run, everything starts to even up a little bit. But since, it's
2,500
being
square feet.
45 degrees outside, nothing's running for very long cycles.
Okay.
But once it gets cold or when it gets really hot, everything tends to run longer, which then cools the space a lot better. And out here, I mean, I see y'all got some shades finally.
We're just using them.
Yeah, but I mean, out here, it's summertime, it just bakes in here just
Yeah.
because of the windows. Those windows ain't helping you at all. And that will dramatically help, that will dramatically change the space as far as even square footage, because you would have to take those into account. That's probably why you have 2,000 BTUs or 200,000 BTUs of heating in this space. Because single.
Because of the windows?
and stuff.
Because of the
Yeah.
glass?
Yeah, sure,
How many tons is,
we have trouble with distribution, the heat, as heat as it is.
Right.
Too much over there, not enough over here.
And that's all comes down to just pure design, whoever designed the facility. And you could try to fix it, but you may not be able to get it perfect, unlike a fresh install, if you will.
how does that convert to tons? Like you have a 2.5 ton, a 3 ton, a 3.5 ton?
So BTUs, so tonnage is like, it's 12,000 BTUs equals a ton.
Sunny is more for air
Yeah,
conditioning.
tonnage is more for air conditioning.
Okay.
So,
It's kilowatts.
so like right now, I believe, I think I got a picture of your serial numbers here, model numbers. So in this space, this is if, make sure. Yeah, in this space, you have 8 tons of coolant. So you have 2 condensers outside that are 4 tons apiece.
And how many square feet? Somebody give me a ballpark.
About 2,400 at most for the offices in there.
I would say you're probably pretty close. We'd have to, I mean, to be exact, I'd say you're probably 2,400, maybe.
Okay, so my house is, I'm heating and cooling about 3,500 square feet on 3 floors. And I think ours is a 3 or 3.5 ton system that's 95% efficient and blah, blah, blah. It's a year old. How does, when you say commercial, that unit doesn't know where it's at. It doesn't know if it's in commercial, or if it's in a house,
Correct.
other than the fact there's a bunch of windows here. Why are we at 8 tons with this versus for instance, my house,
No, I get it.
which probably is same square footage as this, give or take. And my house is just as cool and warm when it needs to be as
Right.
it could ever be.
So there's a lot of variables in that,
Insulation.
yeah,
Heat
insulation.
loss.
You got heat loss. I mean, these windows, single pane windows, that is a dramatic loss.
Okay,
Sun beating in. Yes, that'll help in your heating factor, but that's killing you in air conditioning. You also have, I mean, when you have all these seats full, I mean, there's a lot of variable, for how many people's can occupy the space.
Mhm.
The human body puts off right around 13,000 BTUs. So you figure right now, we're probably about 60,000 BTUs, maybe 80,000 BTUs of people just sitting in here right now. So that will also affect how well it cools. So, and I believe, I'm not 100% sure, I'd have to find out, but I believe that the unit actually stages for 4 tons and then it'll bring on the 8 if it calls it. So you may start at 4 tons, but your second stage is your whole.
are they both running at the same time?
The blowers are, but not probably, I don't think the air conditioning. I'd have to fully check into that. I'm not 100% sure.
They probably do because both the furnaces are tied together, same ductwork, return air, so on and so forth. I'd say they're probably all tied together. They'll all kick in. Because you couldn't segregate them with one thermostat.
When I'm thinking numbers, you're saying an 8 ton and that's twice what's in my house for what I believe to be a smaller space. And it's hard for me to fathom that it needs to be that much.
Isn't this building really inefficient with the?
It probably is with the
Structurally-
brick and the
Structurally,
insulation.
it's really efficient.
And you're stacked up.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, your house probably has very good insulation. Just curiosity, when was it built? Any idea?
97.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you're probably R13, R16 insulation on your walls. This, you can just figure that none of these walls are insulated.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, these single pane windows. I mean, I've walked in here in the middle of summer, it'd be 85 in here
Mhm.
with the air conditioning, with 8
Mhm.
tons of cooling. So, I mean, even right now, I mean, it's a little chilly and drafty. I can feel the draft. And it's just,
Since that system's 20, however years old, do you guys evaluate what size or what kind of unit is necessary assuming there have been improvements in technology in the last 20 years?
So typically, as far as anything that changes as far as capacity, that advancement hasn't really changed.
Okay.
You have 2 tons, you have 3 tons, you have 4 tons. And we typically do not really try to change anything because one, we don't know the ductwork sizes.
Mhm.
If you start to change BTU ratings or AC or tonnage, then you got to make sure all your ductwork can support it.
Gotta make sure your ducks are in a row.
Yeah. Pretty much.
You knew somebody was gonna
Yeah.
say it.
I can see it. So if they aren't, but we know that what you currently have other than your summer, but we know the windows isn't helping you. Other than summer, I mean, I'm sure heating in here feels comfortable. As far as in this space, I mean, what do you normally keep it? Out of curiosity.
Did we try to keep it on like 70?
62.
It was on 70.
And it's cold, it's chilly.
Yeah. I mean, but then too, you also got to remember it ain't running because it's 45 degrees outside.
Right.
So your heat loss isn't all that. But I mean, it would be a lot more money if we were to come in and check and see what your ductworks can do, and if we have to change them to make it actually support the space. I mean, we can do that, but it's not going to be. It'll be a little bit more expensive.
Keep in mind, there's 3 of us typically running space heaters just to stay warm
Which
during
is
the
adding
course of the
electric.
day. Right, it's not helping.
Okay.
I mean, we can come in and evaluate the space a little bit more. We were just going to replace with what you currently have.
Mhm.
Because typically, if it's, like you said, you start to change, then we got to evaluate all the aspects.
I would imagine the difference between 6 tons and 8 tons probably isn't a lot in terms of cost of material. But I'm just trying to get an understanding of why with an
No,
equal amount of square footage, it's more than double what is in my house. Okay.
You can insulate.
Thank you for your explanation. I appreciate it.
Hopefully, I can explain it as good as I can.
Ask Phil if he's speaking.
He was going to come tonight, but he's in a
Sweeten it just a little bit.
he had a class.
Like Dave said, that's a write-off if he donates some of the labor. It's the giving season.
Yeah, I can
Ask him tomorrow and we'll try to make a decision quick. Lori, you can send something out to all of us if they send something where we can answer individually, like in an email. If they give us something by noon tomorrow and they give you a price, can you send it to each one of us and then we can secretly tell you, okay?
I could probably put it on a PO request and send it out and each one of you,
That'd be fine.
Yeah. I mean, I don't want to drag it out.
right?
We're not gonna stay at 45 degrees much longer.
Right. It's only a matter of time. Well, this weekend. So.
Does that work?
Yeah, that
Yeah.
works for me.
Okay.
That's-
So you would like me to talk to him?
Yeah, just see if there's anything
Sweeten the deal?
anything he can do for the
Okay.
township. We'd appreciate it.
Yeah, and like I said, I did provide, I believe, 2 quotes to you, one for just the furnace and one for double, didn't I?
You did, but we discussed since the recommendation was to do the 2 that I only gave that one, but this is the one for just the single.
The single one was a little bit more, and because that was a little bit more labor extensive, because we were actually gonna have to pull one of the other ones out and put it back. So, yeah.
And well, I was always one to replace parts, not the unit, but
Oh, okay.
for myself.
Anybody have any more questions?
I have done.
I have none.
So I will get with him and I'll see if I can get him something over either to you tomorrow, if not very first thing Monday.
Very good.
Because
Fair enough.
I won't be in the office in the morning, but I'll reach out to him. So,
Okay.
All right.
okay.
Sounds good.
All right. You all have a great night.
Thanks for coming by. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Continuing on.
Okay, and also along the lines of repair, just a reminder, the technician in regards to the generator is supposed to be here between 8 and 9 tomorrow morning.
Tomorrow.
I'll be here.
Okay. Let's see, next on the agenda is there has been a request in regards to the time clock to have a backup system if someone's fingerprint scan isn't working, this would just be a temporary backup that the employee could put in a PIN number. Our system allows for that. Once again, it would just be a temporary thing, and we would try to determine why the scan isn't working. We had apparently pretty often, the police department experienced that the fingerprint scans weren't working, and so then the supervisor had to go in and put in the employee's time. So I just wanted to get the board's feel, if it was okay to put before you at the next meeting a resolution
Get a
to
price?
revise the
Or you
policy.
just couldn't work?
It's a function, it's a current function of the time clock that is not implemented. So the request would be to implement the temporary use of a 4-digit PIN should a person's fingerprint scan not work. I mean, it could be if they have lotion on their fingers or.
As you get older, it gets harder to read. I know we had
Retina?
that problem with the county. We had some employees who could never get their fingerprint
Yeah.
to work.
I just wanted to get a general idea if you would entertain that thought before I even start to work on modifying the policy.
And the PIN number would be punched on the keypad of the unit on the wall, right?
Yes,
Would the company make their PIN number their last four?
I think I can set it to whatever the employee wants it to be.
Okay.
I'm all right with it.
And also in your packet is a thank you note from RAM for the support for the ARPA funding through Butler County. And finally, a thank you to Trustee Blower for our Christmas lights again.
Thank you, Keith.
You're welcome.
That's all that administration.
Thank you, Lori. Fiscal officer updates, Julie Joyce Smith.
I don't have any type of actual report on the 2025 budget status, but I will tell you as we go into year end, even with changing out both the police and fire chiefs this year, all the departments are acting very fiscally responsible. In cases of revenue expectations, our initial budgeted amounts are very conservative, and in going across the board, I would say that our revenue streams have exceeded what we thought we would. Expenditures are low. I know we've had a lot of things, equipment breakage and replacements and things this year that were unforeseen. But still, all in all, everybody is holding the line. Things are looking good. I always make myself a little freaked out this time of year because normally a lot of entities are finalizing their budget, whereas we take advantage of the June tax budget as our temporary budget. We try to budget as close to the year expectations as possible, whereas a lot of townships will just budget the first quarter. So really what we're going to be approving at the first of the year is, well, actually, what we'll be doing later in the meeting are just things that are going to allow us to start the year off because we do adopt the temporary budget back in June, July, and we also adopt temporary appropriations. So until I close the year and we have final carryovers and then we amend and do permanent appropriations, that'll be in the spring. There's just some perfunctory things that we have to do to allow us to start the year. So all in all, things are looking pretty good. I met with 3 representatives from First Financial yesterday. I've been having some trouble getting the CD interest. I renewed our CD back in November of 23. There were some items holding up our audit because I can't get in and see what our interest is. And that's a problem. And working with some folks at First Financial, they got all that rectified. I am very happy to report that since we renewed the CD in November of 23, we earned $112,000 in interest on just the CD between November of 23 and November of 24. So that's looking good. Meeting with one of the reps from First Financial, she's recommending that we implement some different things going forward. In the end of 22, beginning of 23, we implemented positive pay on our physical paper checks, which is a process that when I create a paper check, I upload a document to First Financial so that they see the vendor, the amount, because we had one of our checks stolen from a local vendor and washed and resubmitted for a considerable about more than what the check was issued for. So we have the positive pay protection on our paper checks, and she is strongly recommending that we implement it on our electronic checks as well, because the fraudsters are way ahead of everyone, and I agree with her philosophy. So our current banking, we have a money market where we keep a good majority of our available cash that's not in the CD. And then we have money in the primary checking. The primary checking is a non-interest bearing account, and our money market is a very modest interest amount. For example, we've earned about $11,000 in interest so far this current year. We get about $1,050 a month on our current money market. Caroline with First Financial is recommending that we go with a hybrid. It's a one account that combines the money market and the checking, and it would be an interest bearing. And she said, for example, it would pretty much double our interest by doing that. And because of the amount that we carry, implementing the ACH on the implementing positive pay on our electronic checking, or on our electronic payments, excuse me, because of the amount that we carry in the money market in the checking, we really wouldn't see an increase in our fees.
That's
Because
what I was gonna ask.
now, I did ask her to give me an example of what the fees would be in a worst case scenario, and I'm still waiting for that information from her. But I think with the ability of people who dabble in the fraud world, if somebody got a hold of one of our ACH, our electronic payments, for example, most of our utilities are a electronic payment. Our healthcare premiums, which run about $45,000 a month. Somebody got a hold of one of those. On a business account, you only have 24 hours to do a claim, unlike in your personal accounts. I don't work 7 days a week, so allowing, if something would happen to one of our electronic, we could potentially be out some money. So we currently spend $30 a month on positive pay. I'm guessing it's probably going to double if we had to actually pay it. I still think in the grand scheme of things, with the amount of money that's coming and going out of our checking, it's going to be a little bit of a nightmare on my end until all of our electronic payments are kind of covered and set up. But I think it's well worth the hassle and the risk up front, because I think we need to protect we do everything we can potentially do to protect ourselves from fraud. And I just think in this day and age, with more and
So
more,
much of it going on.
with more and more payments going electronically,
Yeah.
I just think it's going to be my recommendation that we do it. Ultimately, I just give you a recommendation. So I ask her that I don't want to do anything until January. So I'm basically asking for your permission to move us to this hybrid account. So we have an interest-bearing checking that's going to hopefully double our interest. And then what happened yesterday with the Fed, the interest rates and all, I think we need to take advantage of as much as we can. And I want you to give me permission in January to move forward with the ACH on all of our, whether it's an electronic payment or a paper payment. I think it's probably in our best interest to do so. I'd hate to see us out a big chunk of money.
I do too, and that's the people's money.
And
So,
they
let's do
gave
that.
me an example of, there's a new fraud method, whereas you receive a package in the mail, it's from Amazon, it's
Don't open
delivered. Well, when you open it, you have a gift card, and that you have to scan the QR code, and as
Seen
soon
it.
as you scan the QR code, it
Exactly.
accesses your phone, it can wipe you out. So they are so far ahead of, the bad guys are so far ahead of all of us
Mhm.
that I think we need to implement everything. Auditor of State is strongly recommending that we do the positive pay on our physical checks, which we already do. I think it's just a matter of time before they say, you really need to just implement it across the board. So that's something I'm gonna be officially presenting to you at the first meeting in January, but I kind of wanted a nodding of heads saying,
Yeah.
you guys are on board. Okay.
Yes.
And then finally, I'm going to have at the first meeting in January, I just wanted to make you aware, we're going to have to do a resolution for then and nows. There's two of them. One was for the fire department. It was for the striping and lettering on their pneumatic unit. What Steve had been originally quoted a while ago. It was about $6,800 and that exceeds our $3,000 then and now. I already went ahead and processed the purchase order because we needed to get that paid. But that's going to be a then and now that you'll need to approve in January. And then this just came out. We received a bill from Barrett Brothers on a cost overrun on paving, and I followed up with the engineer and asked them to please give me some detail. When we got our 24 paving contract, I had set up the purchase orders according to, and we had paid all but $1,800. And then we get a bill from Barrett Brothers for an additional $15,000. So there's a $13,000 purchase order that I'm going to need to create. It's going to have to be a then and now, which means it exceeds our 3,000, which means the resolution I'll need a follow-up resolution on that as well. And I explained that to Eric Ziegler in the engineer's office and asked him for the reason why. So the emails on one side from Eric, the cost overruns are on the other side. Something we might want to consider going forward. I believe the entire paving contract was like, it's like $435,000. We had ARPA money from the county. It left us with like $157,000 to Ross Township. Had we done a 10% above and beyond, it would have covered this. I believe this is the second year in a row we've had an issue with cost overruns. I'm kind of wondering if we just need to do a 10% increase, do a 10% cushion. And then at the end of the year, if we don't spend it, we release it, and I don't know. It's just something we need to talk about. Paul was unaware of this situation. I also responded to Eric saying, hey, in the future, if you'll see from his example, there was a mistake in the original estimate. We kind of need to know that up front.
It's not our fault. The
Instead of
contract's a
it-
contract.
Instead of at the end. I don't think Barrett Brothers is, I don't know.
So instead of laying like 2 inches of blacktop down and flattening it out the inch and a half, they lay 2 1/4 and we got to pay the extra. That's their fault for not setting the machine right.
I don't know. I responded. I thanked him for the information.
Mhm.
Moving forward, bottom line is I have a bill sitting on my desk that needs to be paid. I have $1,800 on an existing PO
You have a bill sitting on your desk,
from Barrett Brothers.
period. Not that needs to be paid, but period. They sent us a bill.
Yep. So
So if you misjudge and it takes you longer to fix
I've
somebody.
got an enormous problem with that.
Yeah,
Well,
right.
not
That's
little.
what I'm saying.
Big problem.
I said, we
contract's a
need to
contract.
be aware, if there's going to be a contract modification, that's fine. As long as we're aware of it, back in when they became aware of it. But giving me a bill in December that there's an expectation that it's going to get paid, I don't have a purchase order for that. I have $1,800 that I'm happy to.
Mhm.
So,
What, when you said 1,800 bill to contingency, what's that about?
build to contingency. I think that was their terminology. That's not my handwriting. That's what I told him I had left available on the purchase order. I have 1845.88 sitting out there that I can pay right now because that's what's left on the purchase order. I think I had 157,000. We had some of our own ARPA funds that we had, and then we had road funding that was paying the balance. I received bills along the way from Barrett Brothers, and I paid all but 1845.88. So that's available to spend right now. There's 13,000 that needs to be addressed.
And the only reason 1845 is there is because it's there,
Right,
but officially they sent us a bill for 15,292 and 68 cents.
right. And I'm like, whoa,
And
why don't I have a purchase order? for this?
When we contracted with Barrett, was there a competitive bid out there with, was that Jurgensen or whoever that other company
The engineer competitively bids it across the board.
is? Okay,
So reading this email, it looks like the contingency was used for pavement repair on Davis Road and driveway apron work on Windy Knoll. And what pushed us over the contract was a mistake in the original estimate that did not include temporary striping and permanent striping. I'm just reporting what I'm been given.
When I used to quote jobs, I had to eat what I had to eat.
Well,
It's time to start eating.
if one of you or feel, I had already emailed them when I responded, I said, don't be surprised if you receive a pushback.
I think.
So,
What I have a problem with is if they quote underbid it, right, wrong, or indifferent. And let's just say Jurgensen was 16,000 more. So Jurgensen bids at 16,000 more. They know that they can maybe just bid a little under and then send us a bill later.
that's a great question.
I feel like Mr. Young here.
If somebody would feel like they would like to reach out to Mr. Ziegler in the engineer's office and discuss that, I can hold that bill until I'm
Yeah.
instructed to pay it.
Please do.
No, I can pay the 1845.
I don't want,
No problem.
I'd rather you not.
Okay.
Because the only reason I say that
It opens
is
up.
if we start to pay some, then we're admitting a little bit of,
Okay.
a responsibility.
Well, my argument was that we received a contract, it was for X amount of money.
Yeah.
And we've expended all but 1,800.
Right.
So in my mind, we were going to get a bill for the balance.
But they sent us a bill for whatever they sent us and you paid them minus the 1845 because that's what they said we owed them. And now when do they come back? This has really got me irritated, in case anybody can't tell. I'm sure my face matches my tie.
I'm with you.
Then they come back how many months later?
Oh, it's been.
6.
6 months later and say, by the way, you owe us another 15.
These are great questions.
Okay.
One they just recognized on 11/14/2024.
And how do they recognize that? How do they,
And they've been off the job site and out of the township for 5 months.
right? How do they just all of a
They're
sudden
just going back in
recognize that?
paperwork. Do they actually really know this occurred?
Yeah, I ain't buying it. Fight them on that one.
And unless I would receive something, a court order or something else, I mean, I'm happy to hold that invoice on my desk until you all are happy. That's why I'm bringing this all to your attention.
Please do. What is their,
And hold your contract. That's how I look at it.
this is
Don't
who?
pass it on next year.
What's the name of their company?
It's Barrett
Barrett.
Brothers, who's currently billing.
We used to have Jurgensen at one time, I thought.
Right.
They had the contract previously. Barrett
Okay.
Brothers got the contract this year.
Okay.
I will await further instruction on that.
Give me something to do between 8 and 9 tomorrow morning while I'm waiting on Buckeye.
That's all I have for, and again, I too want to thank Trustee Blower for his contribution with the Christmas lights. I think it's a nice touch.
Did he wear little shoes and a little hat? Did he decorate the?
I don't know. He's an,
the hell is it?
you'll have to ask Trustee Blower where's. if
Did
he
you wear
wears
little
elf
shoes with
shoes.
bells on them and
No, I went
little hat?
in the Lowe's and gave them my credit card and they gave me lights. And again, the reason I quit doing it at my house is you put working lights in a bucket and they sit all winter, all summer long back there. You plug them in over there and they don't work.
Yeah.
So
That's all from
I
me.
enjoyed it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Julie.
And then if you have any questions about the next item with the appropriation budget, this is just kind of the final, for the 2025 appropriation budget. We've done everything we have. What you have in front of you is the June temporary budget. This is the revenue portion in the temporary appropriations, but this is the resolution that will be coming around to you. Includes basically the original certificate from the auditor's office. That's all that is.
Lori,
And you're also approving the items that you voted on outside of the line items that each department had included that needed to be voted on by each of you individually. That's part of this coming resolution coming before you.
Lori, can you email me that contract for Barrett?
Sure.
I want to see where in their contract there may or may not be a provision for overruns. They're at exactly,
I might have it. If not,
3%?
Paul has it. I'm sure I have it somewhere. I may have to go pull the original bills and
Okay.
we'll get it to you
thank you.
tomorrow.
Expedited legislation. Purpose: the 2025 appropriations budget was the sole topic of conversation at a special meeting of the board on November 19th, 2024, and as part of a work session on November 20th, 2024. The following resolution approves projected expenditures during the fiscal year ending December 31st, 2025. Move for the adoption of resolution number 2024-066 to approve expenditures during the fiscal year ending December 31st, 2025. I need a second.
You have one.
Discussion? Roll call.
Trustee Flower.
Yes.
Trustee Young.
Yes, ma'am.
Trustee McGurran.
Yes. Purpose: revise the requests for overtime compensation policy to allow for compensatory time buyback and revise the vacation leave accrual schedule to 20 years of continuous service to reach the maximum amount of vacation leave. The following resolution is necessary to enact and reflect those changes. Move for the adoption of resolution number 2024-067, amending the Ross Township Summary of Personnel Policies, section 602.4, requests for overtime compensation, and sections 605.3.4, vacation leave. Need a second.
Second.
Discussion? Roll call?
Trustee Blower.
Yes.
Trustee Young.
Yes, ma'am.
Trustee McGurran.
Yes. Purpose: section 505.10 of the Ohio Revised Code provides that a board of trustees may by resolution dispose of items upon finding it is not needed for the public use, is obsolete, or is unfit for the use for which it was acquired. The following resolution declares fire department turnout gear as such and authorizes its donation to Butler Tech. Move for the adoption of resolution number 2024-068, declaring certain township inventory items no longer needed for public use, obsolete, or unfit for the use acquired, and authorizing donation to an eligible nonprofit organization. Need a second?
You have one.
Discussion? Roll call.
Trustee Blower.
Yes.
Trustee Young.
Yes, ma'am.
Trustee McGurran.
Yes. Discussion items. Vacation accrual methodology. Change to per pay period accrual instead of front loaded at the beginning of each year.
If you'd like me to expound a little upon that.
We should
Leo?
probably revisit that for anyone who needs an update.
Yeah, currently, like with sick leave, instead of giving everybody it in a lump sum a year, they accrue 4.61 hours per pay period, which basically is the same that a person in the first 1 to 5 years of employment here would get for vacation. Our current method is after you've gone through your probationary period, you've been here a year, the following year, you just get your equivalent of what your 2 weeks is front loaded. If you leave us, whether voluntarily or involuntarily, you're paid out for your vacation when you sever your service with us. What I would like to recommend is that we implement vacation in the same manner as we do sick time, and that we allow the accounting system to do whatever the biweekly accrual is, to just give it to you a little at a time. The reason that I'm Administrator Kyle and I talked about this is to implement it effective 1/1/26, because that way people know if you have a vacation coming up, you need to plan for it, you need to save. Because if you're going somewhere in February of 26 and you haven't earned all of your vacation time yet, you have an opportunity in 25 to squirrel away some comp time, your holiday pay,
Bank it.
whatever you want to do to bank it, to make sure if you have a bucket list trip coming up that you won't be able to anticipate. I think once we move in that direction where you're earning it a little at a time, and you also have the opportunity to carry over up to 2 weeks, it would be a better and more manageable system. Now, what we might want to have to consider is, we might need to increase that, what you're allowed to carry over, because people might be using it more in March and less in November and things like that. Maybe you take a trip every year in March or April, and so we might need to think about that. But this gives us some time to implement it, gives us time to roll it out to our full-time employees and explain how it's going to work. I think in the long run, it would be a better method. I think our liability at the end of the day, should somebody separate service from us, would be better.
And walk away with more.
Right, and I think it's just a more fair method, and to be honest with you, it's more of an industry standard, is that you earn a little as you go. And you have to know, well, I'm not gonna have that all earned in March, but I have time to I can roll some time over into it, and or I can plan better, and 25, maybe I save a week and have it in the bank. And that way, when I leave in March, I'm good to go. So it just gives everybody a little more time to think about it and implement it. And then I think once we implement it, it would be, so you're earning it as you go. But we may have to look at what you're allowed to carry over.
And isn't also the intent any new hires there, if they have vacation to carry over, it would
Right.
correspond with their hire date, not
Right.
January 1st.
Correct. And it would be more tied to your anniversary date.
Yep, I'm all for it. 100%.
So that's the only thing.
Just so that you don't have a guy sticking around for about 15, 20 years and then
Right.
that last year's, well, I'm retiring, so I've banked 6 months worth of paid time. I'll just sit at home for 6 months.
Correct. So if we just have to, we want to do what's best for the employees as well. We want to, give them some perks and things along the way, but we also have to look at our liability at the end of the day.
And the board appointments,
Okay, thank you.
2025 board appointments for 2025 housekeeping resolution. 2 trustees to serve as representative to the volunteer firefighters dependents fire board, and 1 trustee as chair. 1 police department member as secretary, 1 trustee, 1 police department member, and 1 citizen as members to serve as representatives to the volunteer peace officers dependents fund board. Volunteers?
Have we spoke about this in the past of being the representatives to the volunteer firefighters dependents board? Have we spoke about that in the last few years of keeping that in place, since we haven't been volunteer in well over a decade?
Well,
We changed the verbiage or anything?
I believe this current chief is planning to, or did it at the last
We did.
meeting, hire the auxiliary.
Or allow
Auxiliary.
for them.
No, at the next meeting, he's going to ask approval to hire an auxiliary officer to do training, and we would hold the officers' commission.
Okay,
That was for the
We-
police, right?
That's for the
Yes.
police, and it's the
You
chaplain.
said fire, right?
I'm talking the volunteer firefighter.
We have one, don't we still have
We
one?
do have one who,
Tracy.
Tracy Teets. We haven't paid her anything, but we do still hold her certification, I guess, as an EMT.
Yeah, she does a lot of the football games. I see her.
Right.
Okay.
So, and then we do have one person who receives benefits. Correct? One spouse of a former fire person who is still receiving benefits through this organization. So
Okay.
I want to make sure that all our ducks are in order, so that those benefits can continue. I thought I'd chime in with,
Yeah, I'm with you.
I pay attention.
Okay.
I have never known this group to convene for any reason. It's really rather perfunctory, hopefully.
Correct. But you would have to be prepared if you.
Yes.
Do we need to volunteer for each one of these just so that we're prepared?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
And I need this information for the housekeeping resolution that'll be approved at the first meeting in January.
Well, we have one trustee who's been on fire and police, and one who's been on fire.
I don't care, whatever
I
you guys
can,
think.
I can make up the, whatever one nobody wants. Or I mean, whatever one is left.
Okay.
I mean, that would be my guess, but not trying to volunteer Keith
So
for
we
being
start
I'm
with the
I'm fine.
the police department one.
I'm fine with whatever you decide. Sounds good.
Okay,
All right, we'll
So-
start with the Volunteer Firefighters Dependents Fund Board. We need 2 trustees for that,
I'll do that.
I'll do that.
All right.
okay? Easy enough. And then 1 trustee is chair for the Volunteer Peace Officers Dependent Fund Board,
I'll do that one.
okay?
We are cleaning up.
The secretary for the PD,
I'm going to say the chief.
that would be, are we voluntolding?
Yes.
Chief Gerhard is being voluntold?
Mhm.
Citizen. 1 police department member, is that the lieutenant?
I thought I heard him say something about that before he left today.
And who is,
In the past, it's been Georgia Horgan, but her husband no longer employed here. I don't
Right.
know that she would even agree.
Does that need to be posted or asked about the citizen one? Or not?
We have 3 citizens present.
What does it do?
In decades and decades and decades, they've never met.
Well, that's perfect for me. I'm retired, I almost said retired. I'm retired.
Right then.
Just trying, if they're gonna have a meeting, don't call me at
They don't.
6 o'clock meeting at 5
At 5.
Deal.
All right. Well, let it be known that Dan York has volunteered.
Thank you for your
Thank
service.
you.
It goes in the mail.
Last time I volunteered, I had to clean the day room at Fort Campbell, Kentucky.
Next item, continuation of membership in the OTA's Coalition of Large Ohio Urban Townships, known as CLOUT, which costs $200 a year.
Is there any need? At one point in time, there was a need with some of our jet activities or need for, is there even a need? We qualify because of our budget, not because of our population. Do you want me to continue to pay that membership so that we are a member? Or we certainly can get in down the road, I think, if we need to.
We usually do have a separate meeting at the OTA conference.
So what do they do?
They lobby for things that larger townships are wanting, needing, and desiring.
But they really don't help us out because we're too small?
No, there was a time when we were looking at JEDs and NCAs and things, and they have access to legislation and legal advice. It made sense, but with those things being removed, do we have a need for it? And if we don't, we might as well save the
We
$200.
need legal advice. We got the prosecutor.
But they do act as a lobby.
Mhm.
for things that appeal to the larger urban townships.
Right.
Bigger the voice,
I don't think we need
the
it.
more they get.
I agree.
But that's why I asked. It's like
I agree.
we need-
Yeah.
If we haven't used them in the past.
Yeah.
Go ahead and bow out.
Sure, they'd love it if we joined, if we needed to.
And we could always rejoin down the line if it becomes a necessity.
Any need to change the date of the January 2nd, 2025 regular meeting?
I see none.
None for me.
For me. Anything else from the board?
Did you want to discuss this invoice for the repairs on?
Do you have any
Zimmerman?
questions about it? This
That
is
right
what
there?
I've already
I
mailed.
looked at the pictures, that was a nice walk down. That's dangerous.
If that's what,
What we charge.
Did you not get- Oh, yeah, you
if
got it.
that's what Superintendent Bulak, believes to be right, I'm not going to question it.
I had the invoices from Melvin Stone and Miami Valley, and I have saved them as documentation should Southwest Regional Bulk. I took Superintendent Bulick at his word on the cost of the excavator and the dump truck. And then the actual, those are their actual hourly rates as it currently stands. So if they should have any questions, I have documentation.
And
I don't know that they're going to pay it, but
to bring everybody up to speed, Trustee Blower suggested, I believe it was you, that we bill back Butler County?
Southwest Regional.
Southwest Regional Water for road erosion collapse that the township had to take care of because they couldn't, was it that they
There was a
couldn't or
leak.
wouldn't?
There was
An underground water leak?
some kind of leak that led to the roadside of the erosion and the collapse of the road on Dimmerman.
It was
So
flowing under the road, so it wasn't obvious until.
our people went out
Right.
to fix it. So, because it had to be fixed so that it wouldn't become any more dangerous than it was for somebody to roll off the road or for the road to continue to wash away. So they got out and fixed it. And, because it was a safety issue. So we're going to bill them back and
There are
try to
pictures if you want to look.
get our money back on it.
If you went off the road there, you'd be on your top.
Yep. And that's another angle of that. If we wouldn't have fixed it
Who
and
was
there,
reliable?
and there was, then there'd be a lawsuit.
Right.
So they should just pay it and move on. Public participation.
Mr. Manager.
I would like to talk about a communication opportunity. Tom?
Thank you. Evening. My name is Tom Reiniger. I live at 3223 Rocky Hill Drive, Hamilton, Ohio. The thing I'd like to present to the trustees is our communication, different ways we do that. We've got very positive communication now. We use a newsletter. This is to the general public. But we have a very good web page that has, we post agendas like for this meeting, minutes and videos and announcements. And there's Facebook opportunities through the police department and the fire department. One of the concerns that I had was looking at the number of folks that access that information. On the videos for the budget hearings, there were a total of 10 budget. Now, and I looked at it 3 or 4 different times, so I would be part of that 10. And some of the other videos for like these meetings, the number of views are maybe 20 at the most. And there are a lot of people that either don't care what we do or are just not interested. I don't know if there's a way of tracking how many people actually visit those sites. Perhaps there is, I don't know. But I'd like to think about another way of getting information out. We use the Cornerstone newspaper when we have a new hire, like the chief, the fire chief and the police chief are both highlighted in there. But I wondered whether there would be some value in having a, like, do you know article once a month in the Cornerstone that would say, for instance, in the budget hearings, it was amazing how much the replacement cost for one stretcher was. It's like 23 grand. Things that are not really exciting, but help the township do its business. And keep people informed about the mundane things. Doesn't have to be a full page spread. It could be a, do you know? This is the donation of the firefighters protective equipment to Butler County or Butler Tech is, I think, worth noting. But it also was, I think, $3,000 or $4,000 a suit to replace that. I think that's what. Anyway, those are not exciting things, but it tells the folks that live in our township that there are expenses and there are things going on that may be of some value. But the Cornerstone has kiosks in different places in our township. But at the end of the month, there are no papers left. I don't know how many are actually printed, but it is just another way of getting information out in a kind of a traditional role. So it's kind of like, do you know? And that's it.
Yeah, Tom, thank you. I wonder if we could do that same kind of thing on our website once. I don't know, I'm not trying to add to your work, but maybe once a week. Said, did you know that, to use Tom's example there, did you know that Ross Township donated however many pieces of turnout gear we used, and follow that with, by the way, a new set of turnout gear is $4,000. So we donated it, but when you see that each one of those firefighters just turnout gear is $4,000, kind of plants a seed and lets you know that it ain't cheap. It's not cheap to have a fire department. So it's a good idea. If we did it once a week, just a little did you know corner, maybe it would catch on.
Do you know what it costs to put heating systems in our? But that's an expense. Do you know who put the lights in the front of the building?
There you go.
It's just a way of making folks more aware of what we do besides when we're looking for a tax levy. That's all.
Thank you, Tom.
Thank
I
you.
agree with you, Tom. Thank you.
And on that note, Michaela does a really nice job. She's taken over kind of the social media for the police and the fire.
Oh.
And she's doing a really nice job of keeping things, and at the urging of the chiefs, they want more information out.
Maybe that could be departmental then, if she's doing that for the fire department and or the police department, she could throw those out there. And if it's something administration or township wise, maybe Lori could do it. I don't know. Just throwing it out there.
Maybe you could talk to her about taking a communications position, not a big time paid position, but maybe give her a stipend to spend, because she's going to spend more time, putting together articles for the Cornerstone, taking care of getting things, working with you ladies on the website, and then working with the police department and the fire department to make sure that the information gets out there. One person, maybe I'm putting too much on that one person, but at the same time, it would be, if everybody knows, we go to her with this information or that information, and then she can figure out where to put it and, and how to put it. And because let's face it, a young girl's smart.
She is.
And she could probably do just about anything you ask her to.
She's very eager. She likes to be busy. So
And you work out something where if she's spending extra time doing that, you give her some sort of a stipend to,
interesting.
doesn't have to be you know, a 40-hour-a-week job. But at the same time, when she, you know, finds time, when she's sitting at the desk, if she does have the time, then maybe she could put a little of this together, a little of that together, and it gives her something to do.
Yeah.
Young people have to have something to do, otherwise they
She's
go.
been-
With the new chief, he's given her a lot more to do. Her job
Yeah.
reaction has changed drastically. So that's why she's gone to full-time versus part-time. So her day is filled.
And she does a lot of the social media from home.
Yes.
She'll do it at
So
home.
that means she's volunteering that part of her day.
Well, we're allowing her to fill her time accordingly, but she's a go-getter.
Well, maybe
But overall, it's
find-
it's a good
maybe find
idea.
Another person for that.
Places, you know,
Sorry.
the East Coast,
How did it even kick on? I'm on the side.
down south as well, so. Was curious where.
Ben Shapiro,
Oh,
podcast I was listening to.
oh, decided to kick in.
Guess he had a new one posted.
We are going to retire to executive session. I have one quick thing that came up today that we were going to talk about. To executive session to consider the purchase of property for public purposes or sale of properties at competitive bidding in accordance with Ohio Revised Code 121.22G2. In the time?
Oh, hold on. 7:06. You made the motion. Do you
I
have a second?
made the motion. We need a second.
A second.
Discussion? Roll call?
Trustee Blower?
Yes.
Trustee Young?
Yes, ma'am.
Trustee McGurran?
Yes. There will be no other resolutions or policies done. When we come back, we will close the meeting and it won't take long.
Merry Christmas, everybody.
Christmas Day.
Merry Christmas to you guys.
April.
So is that going to be more 170?
It's also a good umbrella.
For 170?
Yes.
And then 171 will be
We come
bringing
out.
us out and 172 close it.